Okay, so good day. We will be talking about sales forecasting and yeah, this will be the first topic for midterms. Okay, so but before we talk about techniques and formulas, I want you to picture a business owner in October. So she has to decide how much bangus and salt to buy, how many seasonal packers to hire, and how many delivery trucks to book, all for a season that has not happened yet. So, uh, every one of those decisions rests on a single question. So, how much will we sell? No? So, that question is what sales forecasting answers. So, over the next few slides, we will cover what forecasting is, who owns it, the decisions it drives, the two approaches for building one, the full toolkit of methods, and then you will work on actual problem yourselves. So, okay, let's start. Okay. So, okay, forecasting turns historical data and market judgment into the operating plan of the business. Okay. So, what is it? Forecasting predicts future sales from historical data, market trends, and other relevant factors. First off, when we say forecast, right, we always hear the word forecasting, especially, for instance, we've let's say Pagasa forecasted that there will be low pressure areas or typhoons in the PAR, Philippine Area of Responsibilities, and they are somewhat predicting when will it enter PAR, when will it exit. So they are not just guessing, okay? When you say forecast, you already have concrete data. You base your decisions on existing data. So it is not only about guessing, it's not a guessing game. Again, it's forecasting based on actual data. So when you predict future sales, you will not say, okay, I think I will sell around 15,000 next month, but you don't have a basis. It's just gut feel. So that's not predicting, that's not forecasting, that's just guessing. Okay? So why does it matter? So of course, it is the cornerstone for production planning, inventory management, financial budgeting, and sales force allocation. Okay? So our course is sales management. So that means forecasting is being used. How? Of course, uh forecasting sales, projected sales. What else? Uh, Allocation of sales force, or how many sales people do you need to hire for this certain period. Okay, so that's how you could base your decisions someday if you are already a sales manager. Okay, so how is it done? So we have two approaches, the breakdown and the build up, and two families of methods. We have um we have survey, which is qualitative, or mathematical methods, which is quantitative. So it can be qualitative or quantitative, or qualitative, also known as survey, quantitative, also known as mathematical methods. So I know that you're already taking up your research business, or you will be taking up your business research next semester. So don't be confused about that one. When you say survey, uh, I know that it's being taught that when survey, using survey questionnaire, using the Likert scale and so on and so forth, that already would be quantitative. But in here, we will be dealing with the qualitative approach when it comes to surveying for answers or surveying respondents, and we will discuss that later on. Okay, so who owns it? So responsibility scales with company size. So it depends on the company size, and the final number needs top management approval. So what's the bottom line? Accurate forecasts let a company optimize resources, manage inventory, and hit its strategic goals. Okay, so let's let's discuss the next one. We will be discussing deeper about the approaches and who will be doing it and so on and so forth. Okay, so now, as you can see, okay, so on the left is the formal definition. So what's that? It's predicting future sales based on historical data, market trends, and other relevant factors. So it underpins production planning, inventory management, financial budgeting, and sales force allocation. Okay. So in these areas, you can use forecasting. Okay. So on the right is a question students often skip. So who actually does the forecasting? So it depends on the company size. So if it's a small company, of course, the chairman or the president does it personally. Like think of a mini grocery owner estimating next month's rice and canned goods. If it's just a small business and just like a sole proprietor or a partnership that's a small business, the owners could just do the forecasting. Okay. But if it's a medium firm, so it's the vice president or director of marketing who will do the forecasting. Okay. So for example, a regional bakery chain's VP consolidating branch managers' estimates. So that's already for medium enterprises. So let's say, for example, they have different branches in Region 1. So the VP for marketing would get the average or the data from each of the branches, okay? Branches from the branch managers to get a consolidated estimate of the sale. From there, the VP or director of marketing could already forecast the sales. Okay? But what about in a large company? So if it's already corporation, somewhat big, it's let's say a nationwide company or a multinational company. So a group of executives builds it, a national fast food chains VPs for sales, finance, and operations working jointly. So take a look at this one. When it's already a large corporation or a large company, it's not only the VP for marketing or VP for sales who will do the actual forecasting. It's a collaboration between the VP sales, finance, and operations. Okay? So, uh, which of these three would you expect to be most accurate and why? Okay? So, since more people are being involved, so that's deliberate that it improves both quality of input and the acceptance of the final number. Okay, so of course, this one, if there's a joint or a consolidated report, it's not only one who decides, then that would be more accurate. Okay, so next one. Okay. So what a forecast actually drives? So there are 5 business decisions that ride on this number. Okay, so first one is production scheduling. So it sets and maintains schedules so outputs matches anticipated demand. So um for instance, uh there is an upcoming event that you think would increase the demand for your product, then you could forecast that. But it would be better if it's not a guessing game. Most probably, you could forecast based on the previous demand or previous year's demand for that said event. For example, fiesta, right? Or a festival in Pangasinan, and then uh you most likely, or let's say Christmas, okay, Christmas. So most likely people would splurge on Christmas Day, and most probably they would buy your product. But instead of just guessing, you try to base your decision from the previous year's Christmas event. How was your sales last year? So from there you could somehow predict as well, or maybe increase your projected sales based on your historical data. Okay? So that you would already know how much would you produce, how many units, how many or what's the quantity that you or bottles of this product would you produce. Okay? It's really very important to base it from actual data, because there is the risk of overproduction or underproduction. So as we all know, if there is overproduction, the event may pass, and yet you still have a lot of items to sell because it was overproduced. You calculated it wrongly, right? If it's underproduced, um you just you just created small batches, or small amounts of batches, or small quantities, and maybe the demand would be bigger, and you already lost your profit, you already lost the opportunity. Okay, so that's somewhat essential. Okay. Next one is purchasing and personnel. So it determines the quantity and timing of labor, equipment, tools, parts, and raw materials. Okay, so in here we will be talking about the employees, the hiring of employees. Okay, so yeah, as what I was talking about earlier, it's about forecasting how many employees would you hire for that certain project. Okay, so as well as if there, for example, for this project, you need to also forecast what are the equipment, tools that are needed, the raw materials, purchasing of raw materials, and yeah, that's still part of forecasting. For the financial planning, of course, it guides how much capital is needed and ensures adequate cash flow. And for sales quota assignments, it gives you a defensible basis for quotas across the sales force. So, this matters because a quota pulled from thin air demotivates people. You might, as a sales manager, you might be targeting a very high amount of, yeah, sales quota. And if that happens, it would demotivate your salespeople because it's unrealistic, right? Because you think that they could do it, you're just guessing it. So better yet, you have to base again from actual data. Okay. So forecast underpin overall plans, enabling specific goals and strategies. Okay, so uh it's it is very helpful in business and marketing plans. Okay? Mm-hmm. So, for example, okay, so for, let's say, a milk tea, okay, a milk tea shop forecasting 500 cups sold next month will first schedule enough staff shifts for peak hours. Second, order pearls and cups ahead of time. And third, budget cash for ingredients. Fourth, set a sales quota of 20 cups a day per crew member. And fifth, plan a promo campaign timed around the forecasted demand. Okay, so when you forecasted, as you can see in here, it encompasses the four areas. Okay, so that's an example of a good forecasting. Now, how do we actually build one? Okay, so let's take a look at the two ways. So we have the breakdown and build up. So first, okay, let's define the objective. Are you forecasting peso sales, unit sales, or how many salespeople to hire? Okay, so everything follows from that. So again, you have to identify what are you forecasting, okay? Because it depends whether you will use breakdown or build up. Although it would be better if you use both, okay? So later on we will be discussing that one. So for breakdown or top-down approach, you need to start with an overall industry sales forecast, then break it down into company sales potential and the final company forecast. So, again, start with the overall, like general to specific. Okay? Overall industry forecast, then break it down to company sales potential and then forecast. So, for example, the Philippine bottled water industry is projected at 500 million liters. A firm with 10% market share forecasts 50 million liters. So that is top-down approach. So from the industry trends, you can find magazines, or you can find business magazines or online business articles that could give you the figures, the percentage of the how much is that industry as of 2026. Then you can start from there. However, on the other hand, for the build up, also known as bottom up, uh it means aggregate individual forecasts from the groups and units inside your company. Okay? So, for example, 5 campus bookstore branches submit 200, 150, 300, 180, and 220,000 pesos. And then you have to add them up and you get 1.05 million for the company. So, uh, just a quick check. So, which method would you use if you are uh creating your own brand or a new product or a new business with no sales history? So, if there's no sales history, okay, you can use the breakdown. So, for example, if you want to, just like this one, bottled water, if you would like to understand the demand from the demand or how's the industry of water refilling stations, you could try to find online articles that could tell you how many liters are being consumed by one family. Okay, so that's the industry trend. And then you have to break it down. Okay, or one family or one country, and then maybe you can divide it into how many populations or how many families in the Philippines. So you need to work it down to the specific data that you need for for you to forecast your sales. Okay? There you go. Now, so uh there's a practical point. As what I have mentioned earlier, uh it would be better if breakdown and build up, could be used together. Okay? Because let's say, for example, you found that there's a demand of 1 million, for example, in here, and then for the build up, you notice that it's just 500,000. So there is a discrepancy, right? So there's something to work on. You can say that you have to compare it. You have to reconcile it. What went wrong? Why why does the breakdown method differ from the forecast of the build up? Okay? So that would be more accurate. Okay? And there's something wrong. If there's a gap, it maybe there are some there or some information that you need to know more. Okay? So, whichever direction you pick, you still need a method. So, moving on to the forecasting toolkit. So, we mentioned earlier that there are two broad categories of sales forecasting method. So, first is the survey method or the qualitative method, and then the next one is the mathematical method or the quantitative method. So, for the survey method or qualitative method, it's based on the subjective opinions and assessments. So, we have three types, okay? So first is the executive opinion. So how are you going to do that? Two ways. There are two ways. First is one seasoned executive, and then he will be deciding or forecasting, or there could be the second one is a jury of executive opinion. What does that mean? So there's like a group of jury, a group of executives who would forecast, who would um forecast about these things, and they would discuss. But the downside of this one, because it's like a group discussion, is that there might be pressure to conform. Like, let's say for example, one executive is really being strong in his opinion, and the other executives would say, oh, okay, yeah, so they will just follow him. So for that to be avoided, the Delphi method is better to do. Okay, what's this Delphi method? So it's like an anonymous expert rounds. Okay. Okay. Anonymous expert. The experts will be asked, but they do not know each other. And then from there, from the first round, then they will tabulate the data or their responses, and then they will have a consensus, and then okay, majority says like this, and then they will again have a second round of opinion, and then until they could reach a consensus. Okay, they could reach a final decision. Okay, so from there, we could avoid, or yeah, the company could avoid conforming within the executives. Okay, so another is Salesforce Composite. Um, So it means aggregate estimates from individual salespeople, which is the people closest to the customer. So in here, the salespeople could have voice, or have the voice in predicting or forecasting. Okay, because of course their ideas matter, since they interact well. They are the frontliners. They interact with the customers. So most probably they would understand the needs of the customers and their preferences. And from there, the company could study, or yeah, survey the salespeople, and then decide or forecast on what to, oh yeah, on how to uh sorry, forecast the quota, or maybe they could come up with a new product there. Yeah, that's it. So that's how Salesforce Composite work. Again, the main information is being given by the salespeople. Next one is end user expectations. So in here, it's more on survey customers, or customer surveys. So survey customers directly about future purchase intentions. So again, in here, it's about getting information from the customers. So that's how qualitative or survey methods work. Now, moving on to the mathematical methods, it's more on numbers, more on quantitative, and of course, you have to compute. So we use statistical techniques and historical data. So for test markets, you're going to launch in a limited area first and read the results before rolling out. For time series projections, we have the naive method. the moving average, simple weighted, exponential, and exponential smoothing. We also have the regression analysis, which rates the sales to variables like population or income. So, yeah, let's take a look at this one. A university forecasting 5-year enrollment surveyed 10 experts anonymously. Round 1 ranged from 3,000 to 6,000. After feedback and revision, they converged on 4,400 with no single loud voice dominating. So anonymity, iteration, expert judgment, and elimination of bias are the 4 features to remember. Okay, so let's take a look at the naive method first. So I will not discuss more about the computation because I will be posting another YouTube video who could demonstrate how you would compute the problems, okay? So, yeah, later on. And then, and then you will be also having your assignment for practice. Okay, so for the naive, it's the simplest forecasting method. So, it's just assuming the next value in the time series. Just like in here, look at this one. In January, the actual sales was 34, let's say 34,000. So, um, for February, the forecasted sales would be also 34. Okay? And then the actual sales became 37. So the forecasted for March is 37, but the actual sales was 44. Okay, so that's it. You need just copy the previous. So of course, the advantage is that it's very simple, but the disadvantage is that it ignores trends or seasonality on the data. So it doesn't suit everything. It doesn't suit all cases. It's only it can only be used if uh yeah, the time series is stable. Okay? Next one. Here we go, the moving average. We have the simple moving average. Assigns equal weight to each data point in the window. Weighted moving assigns greater weight to more recent data points. Exponential assigns exponentially decreasing weights to older data points, making it more responsive to recent changes. Don't worry, I will be posting another YouTube video on how you would compute these three. Okay? So here's the formula. Now, moving on to exponential smoothing. So it's a more sophisticated forecasting method that assigns exponentially decreasing weights to past observations, giving more weight to recent data points. So what's the advantage? It's more responsive to changes in the data than moving average, and it can capture trends and seasonality. However, it requires a smoothing factor. So, it might not be suitable for highly volatile time series. What's volatile? Uh, it's changing. It's unpredictable. When you say volatile, it's unpredictable. The data is unpredictable. It's like fluctuating up and down. Okay, so you could not use exponential smoothing if the trend is fluctuating. Okay. Next one is regression analysis. So, yep, it's statistics. But I think you will remember in your geometry, the y is equal to mx plus b. You're computing for the slope. It's somewhat the same here in regression analysis. Okay, so this method examines the relationship between sales and other relevant variables. For example, population and income to develop a forecast model. So I usually do this when doing I usually use this when doing the sales forecast for in feasibility studies. So I prefer regression analysis. What I do is to get the demand from the, how do you call this one? You need to get the demand from the number of, yeah, the population of the geography, and then you will get the percentage of how much you will be targeting and the demand based on the survey. And then from there, you already have your base results, your base year. Then you can already work up. Okay, so there. Yeah, I use this in sales forecast, in also in computing for a projected demand and supply. I use a regression analysis. Okay, so that's it. So you can see a simple practice problem here. So a clothing store's monthly sales in thousands, 6 months on record. So in January, you have 10,000, February 12,000, March 15K, April 18K, May 20K, June 22K. So compute for SMA, WMA, and EMA. So in here, it shows in here. So for SMA, 18 plus 20 plus 22. So you just have to get the average. So what's that again? What do you, yeah, for July. So where did you get that? 18 plus 20 plus 22. 18 plus 20 plus 22. So you get the average of that one. Okay. And then divided by 3. So that is 20,000. For WMA, you need to put points like 1, 2, 3. So 18 times 1 plus 20 times 2 plus 22 times 3 divided by 6. 124 divided by 6 is 20,000.67K. 20.67K. For EMA, so you have you have 0.5 smoothing and seated at 12.33. Okay, so that's 19.79. So as you can see, all three land near 20K, right? In here, it's very near 20K exactly. WMA 20.67, like if you round it off like 21. And here 19.79K, if you round it off, it's 20. So, but the thing is, it is very near to 20, right? Um, so as you can see, the SMA is very neutral, whereas for the WMA, it reacts fastest to the recent months, and the EMA is built recursively from all prior data. Okay, so with a clearly rising trend like this one, a manager would favor the WMA or EMA, because both give more credit to the most recent and most relevant months. Okay? So there. Now, so accuracy, what helps and what hurts. Okay. So forecasting is inherently uncertain. So these are the levers that move the odds. Okay. So on the left, what affect accuracy? Okay. What affects accuracy? So we have formal training, sales data quality, time horizon, and combining forecasts. So formal training and forecasting methods significantly improves results. Data quality matters, of course, seasonality, fluctuations, and complete current records. Time horizon is the one to memorize. Accuracy falls as the horizon lengthens. So short-term forecasts are more reliable. And combining forecasts from multiple sources beats any single projection. Okay, so again, if you are formally trained to do forecasting methods, then that's good. You're accurate. Another thing, the quality of the data, you need to take into consideration the seasonality and the fluctuations of the data. Okay? The important thing is you need to have the actual and current records. The records should not be outdated. Okay? And And for the time horizon, again, if it takes you a long time to forecast, then there are a lot of things that can happen within 3 years, right? Or within within 2 years or 3 years. But let's say, for example, if you are going to forecast the next monthly sale, then that would be more accurate because it's just a short period of time. So the thing is, combining forecasts from multiple sources beats individual projections. Okay? So a rice retailer, for example, a rice retailer can predict next week's demand fairly well. If it's 5 years out, there can be new competitors, There can be weather disturbances, or maybe some legislations or policies that can affect sales, which is far less reliable. Okay. Now, on the right side, it's selecting a method, how to choose a method. So, first, you have to consider the time horizon and technical sophistication. Okay? How long? Okay? How long should you forecast? Okay? What's the cost of implementation weighed against the forecast's value? Okay? Also, you have to check for data availability. Again, you can get accurate forecasts if the data is available. The recent or the current data is available. And of course, report a range of outcomes, not just single central value. Okay, so that decision makers can see the risk. Okay, so quantitative techniques supply the data, but judgment still makes the final call. And top management reviews and approves before it becomes official. So that means the CFO checks whether it is financially realistic, but the president still also would check whether it fits the expansion plan. Okay, so what are the key takeaways? First, forecasting is the operating backbone. So it drives production, purchasing, financial planning, quotas, and marketing plans alike. So get it wrong and every downstream decision inherits the error. 2, match the approach to the question. So breakdown works from industry share downward. Build up aggregates unit level estimates. 3, blend qualitative and quantitative. So it would be better to combine. Use a combination of qualitative and quantitative techniques. And guard accuracy deliberately. So you have to train your forecasters to keep clean data, favor shorter horizons, and combine multiple forecasts. So, a forecast is a decision-making tool, not a promise. Present present it as a range and revisit it often. So if there is time, set up uh you need to understand that forecasting is not it's not a promise that, oh, this is this might be the actual sales for that month. Okay, it's just a decision making tool for you to what, are you going to produce more, are you going to hire more, okay, something like that. Okay, and it's just a range. Okay, so that's it. If you have any questions, just comment on the Google Classroom and I will be posting the other YouTube videos on how to compute for the mathematical or the statistical methods or mathematical methods in forecasting. Okay, so see you.